Hey everybody, it's Shelley Roth, and if it's the last Friday of the month, it's Funday School for Business. I'm delighted to have you here today. We have a wonderful panel. We're missing a new panelist, Monique Spence, so if anybody's here on behalf of Monique, thank you for being here. Monique, we'll have to have another practice session, see what went wrong. But you're invited to come to our video panel next month since we had some hiccups this month. If you haven't been with us before, we spend the next hour on Google Hangouts talking about a conscious business practice that we use in our own businesses and we see in other businesses. And today's conscious business practice is bringing your purpose and principles into your plans and projects. Another way to say this, Rhonda, one of our panelists, says bringing your purpose and principles, bringing your values into your plans and projects. I say bringing your philosophies into your plans and projects, and Jacoby, one of our panelists, will say bringing your operating principles into your plans and projects. All of that is the same. Whatever it is, it's what we're going to talk about today. So before I kick it off, if we could, I would like to have our panelists introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about you. Suzette?
Hello, I'm Suzette Cotto, and my company is Innovate Social Media, and we wake people up, or we wake the world up to company brands by utilizing savvy social media on contents, pages, and posts. So we kind of are a one-stop operation for resolving small businesses' needs to build their social media presence. So thank you for having me today. I appreciate it. I'm going to start out by saying,
hey, Suzette. Suzette, before we get started, I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves, and then we'll get started, okay?
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Thanks.
Sharon?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sharon Jenkins, and I am the Master Communicator, and I own a writing service. I'm a literary rock star, and if you want to be a literary rock star, you want to make sure you check us out.
Thank you, Sharon. Rhonda?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me on here, Shelley. I'm excited about this topic. I'm a filmmaker and an actor and a writer, and I also support a local credit union, Primeway Federal Credit Union, currently in their marketing department and public relations. So, and I'm really about bringing right relations and through communications and sharing relatable stories and helping people find their voice.
Thanks, Rhonda. We're glad to have you here. And Jacoby?
Hi, everyone. As usual, it's such a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thanks, Shelley, for the invite and for sharing the hour with the illustrious panel. I'm Jacoby Wayne. I'm co-founder of Energy Arts Alliance, and we help improve lives through the works of evolution through energy.
Thanks, Jacoby. And Jacoby is our facilitator today, and if we can get the Q&A section to work, we'll be happy to take your questions. It seems like something went haywire. Not surprising. There's always Google gremlins to deal with, and today's gremlins have decided that we can ask any questions. So maybe what we could do is, if you do have any questions, you might want to go over to my Google Plus page, and where you see the Google Hangout, you can submit your comments in the Google Hangout. So Jacoby, you might want to toggle back over there. Not sure why that's not working. It could be that I added that showcase. Maybe I'll go in and turn that off just to see if that helps anything. I don't want to mess with too much right now. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So today's topic for me really had me do some thinking about who I used to be when I started off my career as a teacher, counselor, and principal. And how I didn't even know what my purpose and principles were basically back in my 20s. I was just questioning that. And now in retrospect, I think back on being energy awake, I guess. That just popped in my head, Jacoby. You'll like that. Energy awake. I'm really aware now when I'm not in my right mind, so to speak, my mind that allows me to choose again, when I'm not living through my philosophies of business and my philosophies of life. So I'm very aware now that I can choose again. And so back in the day when I was in education and having to do lesson plans. This is a really good example. You know, if the lesson plan wasn't followed, we had to create a lesson plan every day for what we were going to be teaching, and it had to be followed to the letter. And if anything went haywire, and let's face it, stuff always goes awry. There's always something that happens. Back in the day, it would throw me for a loop because I didn't know how to pause, reflect, be present, and choose again where I was. Instead, I would panic, be fearful, and just come from a place of, oh my gosh, the world has ended, and what am I going to do? Now, when I'm in front of a group and I'm teaching social media, I forgot to introduce myself. I do social media training, consulting, and speaking, and I'm also an author of 2 books. Now, when I'm in front of a group talking about social media, either speaking or teaching, and something goes haywire, which inevitably it does, especially when you're using technology, I just kind of take a breath and look at it as a gift. And for whatever reason, if it happens, then I stay present and try and realize what it is that I'm supposed to be present to. So, for example, I had 4 appointments last week. Every single one of them that day had a change. Either they forgot about the appointment, they didn't call me. Now, the old Shelley back in the day would have just been indignant, you know, and just totally not chosen again to realize that, wow, I'm so excited. I can now spend my day in nature, and which is my form of meditation, and look at that as a gift and not be set back by that. Instead of, I guess what I came up with when I was talking to Kane and Jacoby a couple weeks ago. The more I know my plan, and it's you still have to plan, don't get me wrong. When I go in to do a training, I don't just walk in randomly and hope that the gods channel through me. I'm always prepared for my meetings and my speaking engagements. But instead of me being the plan and being heavily invested in the plan becomes me. So it's not, instead of being the plan becomes who I am. So it's a different way of coming at it. I hope that all just made sense. Anybody have any comments on that while I kind of sift through some of my notes? Yeah, so my operating principles, which I didn't say, my operating position, my philosophies, my values now, when I do this, several, give to grow is a primary way of coming for me now. It's not about giving to get for me anymore. It's about giving to grow. Another operating principle or value for me is coming from abundance versus scarcity. That's a huge one. It allows me to share colleagues' information. Like Suzette is a lot better at some things than I am, even though we're both in social media. I can share what she's good at and not be fearful of coming from scarcity. So those are 2 of my really strong values, philosophies, operating principles, and I don't want to take much more time. If anybody wants to comment, just raise your hand so we can see it, and I'll let you do some talking. Okay, then we're going to go ahead, and Suzette is up next. We're going to go ahead and let Suzette talk about her plans and principles and what she brings to that.
Thank you, Shelley. You know, I love the theme of the conversations that we've been having on the Hangouts over the past few months, and they all kind of revolve around the same concept of giving to grow in abundant exchange. I wrote, when Jacoby first said abundant exchange, I wrote that down feverishly because I thought, oh my gosh, this is exactly how I operate. You know, I want to operate like this. But I also, like you, do social media, and social media is my first real business where I've become, have a thriving clientele, and you know, able to continue growing. And I see that a lot of myself is reflected in my company. And because it's social media, I'm fortunate enough to have a platform, or many platforms, where I get to have a voice. And we get to have collective voices. So I even went so far as to incorporate on my website, in my About Us section, a place for passion projects. And passion projects to me are things that I feel strongly about that I want to support. So when you go on my website, you'll see this little hand heart diagram, and then you click on it, and it takes you to a documentary movie that I'm working on called Pioneers in Skirts. And it's basically about providing solutions to barriers that women experience when they are getting ahead in their careers. So you know, just looking at it from a business perspective, I have strong feelings about you know, women's walk in business, and how they've grown, and what we can do to continue growing. And that's something I'm passionate about. It's incorporated into the philosophy of who I am, and the code of what makes me me. So I just think that it's important to realize that you do have a voice. I think so many people go through life not realizing that they can have things that they're passionate about, and incorporate them into their work life. It makes your work life so much more meaningful. You know, I wake up every day and say, I'm the luckiest person in the world because I get to do something that I love. And it's just not a cliche, you know, find your passion and then pursue it and make that, you know, your job. It's just, it really kind of just evolved for me. So I just would like to connect with people who are looking to promote their passions, and different ways to do that. So that's my take on incorporating passion and philosophy into my work life.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that you're all about, what did you say, passion? There were two words, and I didn't get them down because I was multitasking over here. In the beginning, you were saying that you love to work with people that are passionate about their projects. Passion projects, right?
Right. I have passion projects. I support them financially with my time, and I also help promote them since social media is what I do. I'm a natural connection for a lot of people who want to find their voice, and I find it very rewarding and fulfilling to help people find their voices. So that's the best
awesome
about what we do.
Thanks, Suzette, for sharing that. Can somebody do a favor for us on the Q&A? One of our panelists. I'm not sure the panelists see the Q&A section, but they can't see it. Could one of you go and ask a question? What do you want them to do, Jacoby? Maybe you need to tell us what.
We actually need a participant, someone who's listening, to post a question.
We're trying to see if this is working or not. Okay, so thank you, anybody out there that will post a question. We would appreciate that, to see if the Q&A is working. Monique, I know you're there. You could post a question for us. All right, let's see. Next up, anybody have any comments on Suzette? Want to share anything? Nada? All right, I think you are crystal clear with us, Suzette. Next up, we're going to have Sharon. the wonderful Sharon Jenkins.
Well, hello everyone. When we're talking about purpose and principles, that is the very essence of why I do what I do. I have this keen, how can I say it? I have this keen focus on helping people deliver their written purpose. I sincerely believe that people are, how can I say it, programmed, their DNA is programmed to give a certain message. Some people do it through speaking, other people do it through writing, and if you do it through writing, that's where I come into play. I help you deliver your written purpose, your message to the masses. And one of the things I wanted to talk about in addition to that is the fact that I, at a late age, decided that I would revisit the purpose and principle equation, because over the years I noticed that there was some sort of evolution in my life, and which meant that I would have to purify my purpose. So by doing self-examination, especially in regards to my business, because my purpose is the thing that drives my business. So I had to declutter some stuff. I had to say to myself, is this still valuable? Okay? Is this still valuable? Does this put fuel in my tank? Does this energize me to move forward? And I'm a solopreneur, so that is critical. And one of the things that I came up with is purpose is the fuel that keeps you off of E or empty when you're driving down the road of life. You've got to have something that energizes you. Before, Suzette talked about passion. To me, passion is that fuel. The passion to get her done. In Houston, in Texas, we say get her done. So the passion, what causes you to move beyond the obstacles, the roadblocks, the holes in the road? What gets you up? What resurrects you when you miss that, you didn't fulfill that particular goal, your business goal? And I think that it has a lot to do with that principle purpose equation. You have to know beyond a shadow of a doubt where you're going and why you're doing something. And those are the things that fuel you and help you to get up when you don't want to get up, to help you to move forward when you have a discouraging event, unfortunately, with clients. I love clients, but sometimes clients don't love us. So the moral of this story is, once you're in tune with where you are, what your purpose is, and what your passion is, that is the motivation or the fuel that will keep you moving in the direction that you want to move into or you're predestined to move into. So that's me. That's what I got today.
I have a question for you, Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
Why would your clients not love you? You mean when you're kind of telling them what they should be doing, they don't want to hear?
Well, writing a book is a job for people. And then, people will say, because there's glamour in being an author, people will say, I want to do this, I want to write this book. And when they find out the cost, when I'm not talking about monetary costs, I'm talking about the energy that it takes and the intellectual capital that you have to invest in the project, they're like, what in the world? I didn't know. I thought I could just write some words down on a paper and put them out there. But honey, we're talking about the marketing part, the publishing part, the distribution, the whole thing of being an entrepreneur. And, that's my mission. That's my passion, to educate people on what it really takes to get that book baby born. and they don't like me sometimes. You know, when a husband or a wife is in a labor room with someone having a baby, they're screaming at them. And that's what they do to me. They scream at me. Why? Because they're going to have this baby. It's too late. This baby's going to be born, baby. Did I answer your question?
Oh, I just love you. Who else wants to jump in?
Jacoby's got her hand up.
Thanks, Sharon. I just wanted to jump in on the question, the Q&A for a moment, just to let people know that the Q&A is partially working. I can see all the questions. I cannot type responses, but I can read them, and that's what we normally do. So I'll go ahead and share a couple. So Monique says that she's here and watching. She'd like to know how to join in, and it's a great topic. And Monique, I'm going to answer your question in a minute. And yay, my good friend Lane Driscoll's on. And she asks, what are some of the awesome projects that some of you are working on right now? So if, Rhonda, you could incorporate that into your discussion, I'll incorporate it into mine, and we'll make sure to circle back to Sharon, or if Sharon, if you want to do that now, and we'll circle back to Suzette and Shelley. And let me just go back to Monique. And Monique, there was a link to get in as a panelist before we went live, and somehow that link was missed. So you can't come in as a panelist anymore, but please do type what you would like to input as a panelist. We've had to do that a couple of other times with people who had technical audio issues, and I will go ahead and read every word that you share. So we definitely will make the space for you if you'd like to do that.
Thanks, Jacoby. Yeah, Monique, we'll circle back. We'll do this again with you. Yeah, that's great. I love the question that came in about everybody sharing what their projects they're working on. So I think we'll go ahead, and Rhonda, you can go live, and we'll circle back as Jacoby mentioned.
Okay. Yeah, and Sharon, I love that, because in filmmaking, everybody gets caught up on the glam and the stardom of making films. Yeah, and I'm like, there's a lot of hours and sweat, and there's a lot that goes into hours worth of footage to make that like 90 minutes that you see on screen come to life, and to tell the story in the way that the way that could best be of service and best be told. So I definitely relate to that. Your story there, people not necessarily loving you all the time because of the process and what it can, they don't understand what it really takes. But so for me though, when I think about the this topic of bringing your principles and values, and the values can support the principles, but you know, one thing I know that you shared, Shelley, is I think it's important to get clear on what they are, because as you had shared in your 20s, you weren't really sure what they were. And what I found is it is often like putting the cart before the horse. And, you know, we struggle sometimes with projects and stuff until we get clear, consciously clear of, oh, this is what's important to me. These are my values. These are my principles. This is what I want to bring to my projects. And once we get clear on what that is, then we look back in hindsight and go, oh, that's why that project didn't work very well, or that's why that relationship was kind of difficult, because it was so out of alignment with what my values or my principles might have been. So I think it's important to get clear on what they are, and then when it comes to from the perspective of choosing who I want to work with, or choosing what projects I want to be a part of, that they align with those values and those principles. And for me, you know, bringing right relations, creativity, fun, laughter, those are all important to me. And if that's not happening in the things I work on, you know, as you mentioned, being energy awake or getting clear, like very quickly I know, I'm like, oh wait, something doesn't feel right here. What is that about? And I can always go back then to those values. I can go back to those principles and look and evaluate, hey, what's out of alignment, what's not working, and you know, and for me, it'll maybe show up in my body as pain or you know, lack of interest or fatigue. But I get really clear, and I'm like, okay, so here are my principles, here are my values, and let me get back in alignment with those. And I think what's important for me is it's for people to realize that it's okay for your values, your principles to be different than what somebody else's are. and to get really clear that that's okay, and to get clear that your values and your operating principles are yours and not somebody else's, and they don't need to be what somebody else thinks they should be or what you believe society maybe thinks yours should be. Because I think that's a lot of times where we kind of run into some struggles, you know, even from our personal experience. If I think about working in my position I had in corporate before, you know, it was you kind of looking like, I have a job, it's a great paying job, it's, you know, it has all these great elements that everybody, you know, everybody else's values and their principles, they align quite perfectly with this, but for some reason it's not working for me, and why? And again, in hindsight, it's really clear, okay, it could be either the company's values, principles may be out of alignment, or just the position itself doesn't support what my values and principles are. And for me, freedom, flexibility, having a direct impact with people one-on-one is important. And sitting in an office in the position I was in, it got to the point where I could no longer do that or be of greatest service. And that's the other thing with that too, is once you're clear on what those operating principles are for you, you can evaluate and go, how can I be of greatest service? And can I be of service in the way I'd want to be of service in working with this whether it's a company or in my own projects and plans, in cooperation with another person. You know, like it's kind of like a compass, if you will, or you know, it's something a foundation that you can always look back to for anything that you're doing in the future. And to support being of greatest service and bringing, you know, whatever your operating principles are, being more effectively able to bring those into life. And for me, and Lainey, hello, hi, I know Lane as well, and thrilled that you're here. As far as some of the projects that I'm working on, like right now I'm working on, I just created a video for an organization here called No Autism. You know, they're very much about building awareness about autism, but also just helping families and supporting families. And again, and looking at what their values and principles are, you know, they do align in many ways with what I want to bring, and helping bring, you know, projects. Like I said, we just created a video for them, they launched it last night, just telling the story about autism and what their purpose and mission is, and to support subsidizing the testing to help people, families, identify if their children are on the spectrum or not. So that's one of the cool projects. And also there's a documentary that I'm working on for that as well. But any of the films, any of the projects, even the companies, like the company with Prime Way, and I just want to share this because it came up earlier when Shelley was sharing something. When our CEO came in 4 years ago with that company, Prime Way looked very different than it did now, but she came in with values, and our values, the value statement for Prime Way, the acronym is CARING. And so I'm like, oh, okay, caring, I mean compassion, integrity, sharing knowledge. So these are things that align with things that are important for me as well. And when she came in, she was very clear that the people had to come first. The members were first. So it was always about the members, and it was always about the employees. And even though it took them 4 years to get to where they're at, that's still a very short period of time. If you saw the numbers then and you saw the numbers today, I just did a piece on this actually, and I was very impressed. And I was like, okay. But she just would not waver to what was really important to her, what her values were. And in doing that, she didn't get short-term results. She didn't focus in on that short-term gratification. She could have came in and cut people. She could have come in and cut services from members to get those numbers to shift quickly. But she waited, and she really believed that if she stuck to her values and her principles and what she thought was really important, they would get the results. And 4 years later, they're ranked number 8 in the nation in loan to growth, with the fastest growing loan to growth ratio. And the numbers have really flipped, and it's sustainable results. But again, going back to staying true to those principles and her values, and leading the team in such a way to do the same. Again, they had pain initially, but now they have that sustainable. They're at a point where the results are sustainable and earnings are there. So it's just an example of getting clear on values and principles and sticking to it.
I want to make a couple comments, Rhonda. one thing I wanted to share, and you reminded me, you know, our bodies, our physical bodies tell us when things aren't right.
Mhm.
And I remember going to work every day at XYZ company and being physically sick in my stomach. You'd think that my brain would listen to my physical body, but no, that paycheck's too good and that health insurance is too good. But you know, you really do know, and I think as we grow wiser, we're much more in tune to hearing our physical bodies talk to us, and we're more in tune to that. So thanks for sharing that. And one more thing, where do we go see this video that you made on for autistic families to watch?
Well, just so we officially launched it last night, so I will be sharing it on the social media page today. It's a couple-minute video, so yeah, it's just a couple minutes, and it's about their organization. So I'll share that today on my Facebook page. If you just look me up, Rhonda Suter. I'm the only Rhonda Suter. Just spell Rhonda without an H. I'm the only one on there, so I'm pretty easy to
Awesome.
find.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you being with us today and sharing that great information. And I got to work with Rhonda at Primeway, and I didn't realize that was their caring was their acronym for how they conduct business. So that was really nice to hear.
Yeah, and the mission is to be a place where people love to work and love to do business. So.
Okay, let's see. Wow, yeah, we have. I was thinking, wow, we have a lot of runway left. We have Jacoby, and Jacoby can talk about the leaves today behind her because it's absolutely gorgeous there. So, Jake.
Shelley, do you want me to wrap up the way I usually do? Do you want to cycle back through Suzette and Sharon and yourself to share any of the projects that you're working on before I jump in?
That's a good idea. I think we'll come back and talk about our projects. And did Monique give you anything to share? No? Yeah, she probably had it in her head. All right. Yeah, so let's do that. Let's go ahead and cycle back. And since I'm talking, I'll go ahead and the projects I'm working on right now, the main project is taking all of our Funday schools, and this is number 8 right now, and putting them into a book, which will be a book of the top 10 conscious business practices as shared on Google+. That's book number 3 for me. I'm thrilled to have Jacoby editing and contributing on book number 3. She's edited my past 2 books. That's probably my biggest project that I'm working on, other than I have a big social media symposium coming up on October 24th. I invite you all to come to that. It's an all-day event with 5 other speakers, October 24th down at the Bayou City Event Center. ShelleyRoth.com is the best way to find my calendar to learn more about that. Suzette, you want to tell us about your projects that you're working on?
I mentioned Pioneers in Skirts. I'm not sure how well I enunciated the name of the documentary, but it's Pioneers in Skirts. Let's see if I can get it up there. And they have a website, pioneersinskirts.com. It's filming right now, and what they're doing is going all over the United States and interviewing women who are at different stages in their careers and asking them, how they got where they are and what they would do to continue the momentum of, people are saying, like Sheryl Sandberg came out with the book, with her book, Lean In, and, a lot of people are going, oh yeah, that's the conversation that everyone's having, women, yay, we finally got, we've got somewhere on the ladder. But really the unspoken words are that women really are still not equal pay, equal job opportunity, equal lots of things with men, and it's still a process that we need to address. So Pioneers in Skirts is documenting. They've talked to Kat Cole with Cinnabon. They've talked to Rosie the Riveters, the original women who, I guess it was during World War II, took the place of men building machines and things like that on an assembly line, and the men told them that they couldn't do it, and they all looked at each other in the interview and said, yes, we could do it. And it was really validating, and the whole thing is just a great project. They're running on fumes financially, and if you know of a company looking for corporate support to, maybe align with um, this particular project or passion, or an organization, they would love to talk to those people. So it's a passion for me. I've been working on it for about a year, and I look forward to it going into production. It should roll out sometime in 2016. But they are actually going to wrap up in Houston, and they're coming to Houston to interview some rodeo girls. So we may see them at some point in time in the end of February, beginning of March. So I've invited them down. We're going to get Houston on the map. So I'm excited.
That's awesome, Suzette. I'm glad to see that. Pioneers in Skirts. I've promoted it on my Facebook page. I don't know if they're doing a Kickstarter project, but that might be, or an Indiegogo. That might be a great place for them to try and raise some funds if they haven't done that.
They may go. They're going to go to that, but right now they're really looking for corporate sponsors who will align with the project to give it some more or less, attention, the right attention. Lots of companies are incorporating this particular topic or interest in clubs and organizations within their own companies. So we're looking for an alignment with corporate sponsors in that way as well.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that. And Sharon, what are you working on? What big project do you have going?
Well, actually, I'm working on a screenplay for one of my clients who's in the financial industry, based on Scandal, the television program called Scandal. Got some of the same nuances, and so that's going to be, it has turned out to be a fun project. And then I've partnered with Rochelle Carter, the other entrepreneurship expert, and we're going to be doing a magazine in 2015. And also we're going to write a couple of books, a couple of books on entrepreneurship. I already have one book on entrepreneurship, and we're going to come together and write for a specific audience. And then last but not least, in 2015, we're working on the MC, Master Communicators Writing Services, is working on incorporating translations and transcription into our mission, because Houston is a huge city, multicultural city, one of the most diverse cities in the nation. And of course, in order to reach a larger audience, you're going to have to speak a different language. And so we feel that it's very important that we offer those kinds of services to authors and businesses who are looking to get their written media out in different languages. And I partnered with Listo Translating Services and more. And we've had some fun here lately. And so we're going to, really do something great and wonderful in 2015. So if you've got books or anything written media that needs to be translated, let's say you want to reach out to the Hispanic market, we are the people that will do it for you, and we do it in a timely fashion.
All right. You are busy, Sharon.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of those plates spinning.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So I hope we kind of covered everybody. I think, Rhonda, did you have something to say? Rhonda?
No, well, if I could take a minute there, I just wanted to add one thing I have on my, I have moderndaygypsy.me on my, so just one of the things that I'll be launching in December is the moderndaygypsy.me site. So I just wanted to mention that it's not live yet, but it will be live in December, launching that in December. So, yeah, that's all.
Perfect. I can't wait to see what that's going to look like.
That'll tie in everything that I do, sort of. So that's the goal, the whole modern day gypsy spirit. So
Awesome. All right. Well, we have Jacoby there at beautiful Lake Placid. I think that's where she is. She may be in Vermont. Where is Jay?
I am I am in the Adirondacks, and we are lucky to have the most peak color year on record, only matched by 2012. So it was pretty cool last night when Shelley was testing out her connection. She had called me on Hangout, and I had just hiked 2,400 feet up knobby rocky knoll, and saw she was there, and so I was able to share with her the incredible valley and this vista. And I grew up in New England, and I have never seen leaves the way they are this year. This is a very pale representation behind me, but it's something, and it's thanks for your question, Shelley. It's a good prompt for this topic, and you'll have to stop me if we're running out of time, because I think this is one of the most important topics that we've addressed in the entire time that we've been together for this. So let me start with a couple of things. Of course, the purpose and the principles are incredibly important, and for those of you who've been either on the panel from the beginning, or most of them, or who've been following along, you'll know that I have participated in every single Funday from a different location around the world. And that is in no large measure because when we set out to create Energy Arts Alliance, or when we were really kind of plugged into this thing that already exists, and it was our, it's our opportunity and responsibility to steward it into physical manifestation, it was very clear to us that that adventure and playfulness, and most importantly, this vibe of structured flow, was built into every project and way of expressing our purpose. And so that strong orientation and that strong focus on what we call structured flow has really enabled us to think in a way and to structure things in a way that leverage whatever is out there and available, that allows me to participate in fun days from St. John, Virgin Islands, and Maui, Hawaii, and Los Angeles, and Bodega Bay, California, and Chicago, and Rhode Island, and all these different places that I've been. And I always knew and had traveled when I was younger that travel and being in different locations and circulating out into the world was going to be important to me. But it wasn't really till we brought that to the foreground as one of the informing principles and purposes of our work, that not only did we start thinking in ways to make that happen through particular projects and plans, but also the environment, and I can say like the universe around us, the ecosystem around us, started to pull into our orbit the ways to make that happen. So that's one takeaway from today, is this concept of structured flow. And we spend so much time, any of us who cares about this, and there are people in the world who really don't invest or are not stimulated to invest a lot of thought into what their purpose is. I have a friend who's raised in a Vietnamese family, very traditional, and for him, work is work. You don't look for satisfaction or fulfillment in work. You work to pay the bills, and then everything else, if you're lucky enough to have time left over after working so hard to pay the bills, then maybe you get to figure out what you enjoy doing. So that is, that is a stream of philosophy that's totally valid, and there are people who are not really plagued by this question of what's my purpose, at least consciously. But for those of us who are, and I know I was plagued with this and didn't find the answer, didn't get presented with the answer until I was fully ready and experienced enough to hear it, which was when I was 33. But the thing is that we work really hard to figure out and craft and identify what our principles and what our purpose are. But we can't stop there. And a lot of people kind of stop there, and they have, Suzette has that wonderful dream behind her on the wall. And, a dream is lovely, but and some of us certainly just having the dream that we held internally is enough to fuel us. But a lot of us who are creative, we want to share that dream out and turn it into something that is shared. And so Kane's topic, my partner's name for this topic, which is totally brilliant and totally appropriate for today, and I'll get to that in a minute, is from impression to expression. And so the purpose part is the impression. We get impressed, we plug into, we connect with this impression, this strong, impressed energy or idea, and this is really the purpose. And that purpose translates into principles, which we also get impressed by through the things that we see around us, through what we value, through what our truths are and what we won't participate in, like what Rhonda was talking about, and realizing sometimes that our principles are different from what other people consider either normal or acceptable or valuable. So we have this stuff impressed on us, but then it's where we have a real responsibility, and this is where our co-creative faculty comes in, is this joyful, what should really be this joyful process, and it's not always easy, of translating this purpose and these principles into something that resonates, into something that has impact. And that I'm not putting a definition on impact. There is no universal definition on impact. For me, if I draw a picture and I like the result in some way or resonate with the result, that may be all the impact that I want to have. I'm not out to be a visual artist as a career. For other people, they may do their art with an absolute need for an audience. So the impact that we want to have and how we define that is going to be different for each person. But it's really part of our responsibility and part of our purpose as human beings, as stewards of the creative energy and the creative faculty. And other, for people who are religious, this is the Holy Spirit aspect. This is the Brahma aspect in Hinduism. It's in ageless wisdom, it's the creative intelligence aspect, and it makes up part of the triplicity or trinity of who we are, and what some people would call divine expression. So, so this structured flow, for me, has been a very important way to bring this capacity for impression to expression to life. Because the challenge is sometimes our dreams start to kind of lose their luster and a little of their juice when we have to plan. It's like, this sucks. I don't have to put, walls around my dream. And this is, a lot of probably what Pioneers in Skirts is dealing with. You can have a marvelous, wonderful, important concept and project, and when you start running on fumes, it's really difficult to keep finding the juice of the original inspiration, especially if people aren't sharing or sort of buying into the vision and such a universal principle that you think is like a no-brainer. So the structured flow we found is a really good way to think about turning impression into expression, because it gives you some sort of structure, but it's a loose, dynamic, and organic structure that also enables flow. So that's the real balancing point that we all have to find, is that balance between flow and kind of letting inspiration bonk us on the head. Sometimes we hit dry patches, and the reason isn't because we're not on the right path or we're not doing our right purpose. It's because we're in a part of our path and part of our manifesting and creative ability where we're having to call on ourselves and on our creative resources to access more creativity and to develop more of that faculty within ourselves. So let me turn to Lane's question of the awesome projects that we're working on, again, because it's a really good example, I think, of this concept of turning purpose and principles into projects and plans and being guided by that. The main project that Energy Arts Alliance is working on right now is what we call these quarterly weeks of world cooperation. And it's one piece of what we do, but it's the most visible public piece of what we do, because a lot of what we do is not really geared towards consumption. It's more just how we be and what we're doing through the world, and that's what a lot of our travel is about, bringing new energy and circulating energy to places and meeting new people to make points of contact. But our service, our main service out, our main expression right now is these quarterly weeks of world cooperation, and we're in the middle of the fourth one of this year. And this is the autumn week of world cooperation, hence the leaves behind me. And today is actually day 6, and it's the way and power of world impression. So this is exactly the energy and the topic for today. Why this is relevant to the topic is that we basically bring to life the world of energy. Now that is massive. There is a massive body of thousands and thousands and thousands of years of work written and intuitively downloaded that have never been written that trying to present to a modern, mostly Western, in our case, objective, spiritual, but maybe not religious. Of course, there are plenty of religious people around, but a lot of young people are resonating more with the unifying aspect of spirituality as compared to some of the what they perceive to be separating aspects of religion. And so part of what we're doing is trying to bring a modern way of navigating this world of energy that anyone from an intensely religious to the most agnostic or atheist, skeptical scientist can resonate with. And this is why we talk a lot about the laws of physics. Laws of physics are just an extension of bigger laws that people, some scientists, have happened to be able to figure out how to explain. So where do we start? This is a massive topic. Okay, welcome to the world of energy. That's like trying to introduce people to and describe another planet or the United States, and to someone who maybe doesn't speak the language. So the beauty of these weeks of world cooperation, which came perceived through a reading. There is a reading that has been written that there's an annual gathering in December, a virtual gathering. It's not necessarily in an office or at a retreat or in some space, but there's a gathering that happens every December from December 21st through 28th. And we created some light things to do during that week for one of our service groups 3 years ago. And after we did that, he kept kind of noodling on the impression of the December week of world cooperation. And because he was noodling, he was presented with the insight that there's not only December. Just because December was the only one that was written about, there's not just December. There are the other 3 seasons as well. So we have winter, we have spring, we have summer, and we have autumn. And so the following year, we put together some light events for those 4 seasons, but we primarily did them ourselves, and we didn't have a lot of details. Last September, we started running again. So we started running around Mirror Lake, a 3-mile run every day, and that was kind of like the main focus for our internal project and plan of the September week of world cooperation. And this year, it really presented itself as a full-blown public event. And the beauty is that in the the autumn week of world cooperation, not only did we, is it the finishing of the 4, but we were given the additional insight and intuitive sort of impression that this was the opportunity to create a framework of these rhythms that we've always been doing as a major way that Energy Arts Alliance helps improve lives through the works of evolution through energy. So we have this massive topic, this massive purpose and principle that everything evolves and everything evolves through energy. But how do we turn that into a project and a plan? The way we've turned it into a project and a plan is here's a way of navigating and thinking about this world and bringing world cooperation to life. The principle, first of all, that we are agents of evolution. So that's opening day. And then the rest of the 7 days of this week, it happens to be an 8-day week. Day 1, it's going through these 7 ways of being an agent of evolution. Day 1 is through the way and power of world meditation, or world citizenship. Day 2, or way 2, is the way and power of world meditation. Day 3, way 3, world cooperation. Day 4 and way 4, world service. Day 5, world impression. Day 6, or way 6, world wisdom. And day 7, world regeneration. Now, this is a structure that we've been using internally for 3 years. And the reason that I also share this is, A, it's a cool project, so I'm answering Lane's question, but also it's showing that we had an impression that everything is energy and we had a massive, this massive purpose, and that has created a very loose but very impeccable structure in which to, with a lot of flexibility, to create a lot of different cool stuff in each of these weeks. And the other really important part of this, and why it's a good example of structured flow, is it's a really good example of timing. We could have tried to press and push and figure out, what are we supposed to do with these weeks of world cooperation? And instead, what we've done is we've taken the structure that we've been given. Okay, we started with 1 in December, and then we went to 4 throughout the year, but mostly for ourselves. And then we've gone to 4 throughout the year and out, into a well-crafted, packaged project and plan for the general public. And so the beauty is that the impression has unfolded itself into beautiful expression because we walked that exact razor edge of structured flow. we put some structure, we listen to the structure, we've done our work, and those are people who are participating in the Week of World Cooperation this time, they've seen we are busting our butts, creating a lot of stuff. And like, I'm feeling a little tense because we haven't started today because I'm here instead, and so we're never going to have to hump it. But I also know that, you know, it's part of the project and plan, so it's all going to work out. So I will stop there. And I could talk for days on this one. We should probably do like a part 2, because this is really, really important. This is our power to manifest, and this is who we are as human beings.
Hey, I am happy to do part 2 because, you know, I am living in the Week of World Cooperation, Autumn Week of World Cooperation. You've got to do day 4. You're still in day 5. And it's like back to the lessons. Listen to your gut. Chill out, Shelley. You're where you're supposed to be. I mean, it all comes back and flows. So yeah, Jacob, we can talk about doing instead of 10 fun days, we can do 11 and bring in part 2 of this one if we want to. But right now we have a couple minutes left. I want to thank you for sharing. Of course, I know you could go on. I think you could probably write several volumes on it. So I appreciate your being here. I always love having you here and facilitating, especially taking the time out of, is this day 6, I think, of the Week of World Cooperation Autumn. I really appreciate you and you being here. I'm going to kind of wrap now. Everybody, all the panelists, you've been awesome. Thank you for being here with me. Rhonda, always great to see your smiling face. Sharon, if you were any brighter, I would be blinded by the light. Suzette, you bring such divine presence and spirit. I love you to death. And Monique, if you're still out there listening, you'll be on the next one. Speaking of the next Funday School, it will be Halloween, October 31st, which is the last Friday of the month. And our topic, unless we decide to change it, will be discovering your hidden value, defining how do you measure your value and how do you share your value when you're out there in the workplace and with others. So that for now is our topic for October. Thanks everybody for being on. Anybody that wants to join us to be on the panel, please just email sroth, that's S-R-O-T-H, at Shelley with an E-Y, ShelleyRoth.com. Would be happy to have you on the next panel. This will be on YouTube if you didn't get to hear the whole thing or want to go listen to it. It will be on YouTube as well as Google+. Thanks everybody for coming to our Funday School. Have a great rest of the day and weekend, and we'll see you next time.